Hello and welcome to ChinnyVision. This time it's up and away with an Afterburner clone. MiG-29 Soviet fighter, not simulator as some people say, is a 1989 game by Codemasters 299, written by a guy called Richard Cheney while he was still at school up in Hull, and the graphics and sound were updated by Codemasters. Let's dive straight in. So we're going to start off on the original Spectrum version, and lots of options for controls on the menu, and we take off from a runway and off we go. You've got 4 types of weapons, and you've got to use the correct weapons to shoot different things. There's bombs drop on the ground, bullets to shoot the aeroplanes and missiles, and a nuclear type bomb thing as well that drops down at some stage. You have to change between the weapons, which is quite irritating. It's all very fast moving, and as I say, Codemasters have updated this. I pressed pause by mistake. That aircraft up above needs the right weapon. There we go. And if you don't get the right weapon, what he does is he will shoot you. It's all very fast moving, and it's very quick. You'll very easily find yourself dead. And you come to the end of the level after about 90 seconds, and you land on a runway, and that's level 1 over and done with on the Specky. It's 48K only game, by the way, so no enhanced sound if you've got a 128K model. Off to level 2, which is a desert stage. You can tell that because they've changed the colour to yellow. Over to the Commodore 64. Jolly tune on the menu screen of the C64, and I do like this font. It actually looks like very much like an Atari 8-bit font, doesn't it? All those colours, or 2 colours, but it's the kind of thing you see a lot on Atari 8-bit games, and off we go. And very fast moving, slight scaling towards you on the ground, a bit blocky, but moving better than most C64 3D games. It's incredibly difficult though, and extremely fast moving. And you still have this incredibly stupid weapon system. Over to the Amstrad CPC. And I do like the way the menu screen goes into the border, if you notice, on the bottom there. It's quite clever. Quite a nice presentation on the menu screen, because look at just how many colours you've got there. There's quite clever stuff going on there when you start to analyse what's going on that screen. So looking very similar to the Spectrum version as we take off. And it's incredibly jerky and slow, and your plane's very slow to respond as well. Nowhere near as fast as the Spectrum version. Little arrow at the bottom tells you how far you are into the level, so about a third of the way through already. Sometimes power-ups drop via parachutes as well. They give you more of the various weapons. I'm already out of the basic bullets there. It's very easy to run out. We've got some more power-ups there, but it's not infinite bullets like you get with just the bullets on Afterburner. And then you've got the nice explosion effect. And then you've got finite other weapons. These are all finite. And if you don't shoot those helicopters above you fast enough with the dedicated weapon, then you basically die. There's no way to avoid what they shoot you with. 3/4 of the way through the level now. Tanks down the bottom there, incredibly small, but you need to shoot those with the right weapon as well. It's incredibly fiddly because you've got one hand on the joystick and trying to fire, and then you've got to fiddle with the keyboard to select which weapon you want. Then something else happens, and it all gets really irritating. And down we come to land. And that's level 1 over and done with on the Amstrad CPC. Not much fun, very jerky. Prepare for level 2, desert. I'd rather have dessert. And we take off. And the scaling's nowhere near as good as the C64 version. It seems to be the worst of all worlds on the Amstrad. Over to the Amiga version, and the first thing that strikes you is, yeah, PD game. It's not terribly impressive. The graphics are very basic for a 16-bit machine. Unfortunately, can't run the ST version. Haven't been able to get that to run, but I've got no reason to think that it's going to be significantly different from this Amiga version. Really, yes, it's a step up from the 8-bits, but that really isn't saying much. Gameplay remains pretty much identical. I guess they had a game design spec and all the programmers went away and produced their own versions. You've still got the 4 weapons to choose from, and it's still incredibly fiddly to select them and get the right ones at the right time. Back over to the end of level 1 on the C64, and you get, instead of landing on the C64, you get power-ups like Afterburner. Whoever converted this to the C64's clearly been looking at Afterburner, so prepare for combat, get ready for the desert. Is that so they have to avoid the plane taking off? It possibly could be. It's certainly very frantic, but it isn't much fun. You can look at this, and looking at it as a basic game, and there's a power up there, because I skipped through to the end of the level. You can look at it, and it looks fun, but it isn't. It's quite visually impressive on the C64, and it sounds quite good as well. It just isn't any fun to play. Get ready for the bonus area. And the bonus levels, things drop down on parachutes, and you have to collect them for points. Instead of a chart showing you the distance on the C64, you just get a countdown in the top middle of the screen. Also interesting, on the C64 you get a damage meter as well, on 1 life, and that's it. Whereas on the Spectrum and Amstrad you do get lives, but no damage meter. So if you run out of fuel or get completely damaged, that's it on the C64. All the levels are pretty much the same, except with different colour schemes. So you've got things like Arctic level, Desert level, Night level, and things like that. But it's incredibly repetitive. And back onto the Amstrad CPC, onto the Desert level, and you can see just how jerky and slow it is on the Amstrad, and how poorly your aircraft responds. I seem to remember this got very bad review in Amstrad Action. Possibly not when it was originally reviewed, but certainly when it was re-released on the Quattro Combat. I think it was Quattro Combat compilation. I had it on my Amstrad and Quattro Combat. And yeah, I did. Was it Quattro Arcade? Again, I can't necessarily remember, but it was on one of those Quattro compilations. I didn't play it much because it's rubbish. And on the bonus level on the Amstrad, things just drop out the sky jerkily. And then we go on to level 3, which is the Arctic, which of course is going to be white. It's just a very cheap Afterburner clone, isn't it, really? And it's a shame, especially when Afterburner on the Amstrad is pretty good. And G-Lock as well, come to think of it. And when you get to the end of the game, it says, well done, you have completed all the levels. And that's it. Once you've done that, you've seen the game loops round. That is it on the Amstrad. Spectrum version, I believe, is pretty much the same. The C64 version seems to go on forever. And occasionally a nuclear bomb power-up will drop down. If you pick that up and you drop it, yes, you set off a nuclear explosion. Tasteful. MiG-29 Soviet fighter is a pretty shoddy cash-in on Afterburner. On the Spectrum, the version that Codemasters took from the original programmer and tidied up a bit with new graphics and sound, well, as a budget game, it's not too bad. It's a little bit difficult, but it's not too bad. C64 version, it's, as I say on this video, you're probably looking at it thinking it looks not bad at all, but it's pretty rotten to play, I'm afraid. Not much there, not much fun at all, doesn't live up to its graphics or audio. The looks of the Amstrad CPC version sum up pretty well what the C64 version is like to play. Although those graphics look colourful if they were static, they're jerky, horrible, and the whole thing just shudders along at a terrible speed, and the game's over so quickly as well. If you don't lose any lives, which you will, you can finish this game in under 5 minutes. That's how short the actual gameplay is. The entire thing is shoddy and just pretty rotten, really. The Amiga version is just as disappointing as the other versions. It's pretty much reminds me of a PD game. It plays just as badly as the 8-bit versions. The graphics are a slight step up, but this really isn't 16-bit standard. Overall, in the pantheon of aircraft fighter arcade games, MiG-29 Soviet Fighter comes down pretty low in the pecking order. Seek out Afterburner or G-Lock as much better alternatives.